Hi, welcome to the Module 3 of the Data Migration Framework course. I am Krupesh Desai, your trainer for this course and the author of the book, The Data Migration Framework. In this training, we will learn about the fourth and the final iterative component of the framework, that is, iteration goals. In the first six components of this framework, we identified all the ingredients necessary to cook a palatable data migration dish when replacing a legacy business application. However, from determining the ingredients to cooking the final dish for the big day is a prolonged process that requires several test migration runs before the big day. As a program or project manager, or even a business stakeholder, data migration test iterations are your opportunity to assess how close you are to achieving a smooth data migration if it was to be executed today. We earlier covered that an iteration discovers gaps and issues in the data migration. From one iteration to the next, you will discover new data quality issues, gaps in mapping, downstream integration showstoppers, and the introduction of new target attributes, which will result in new business rules. Tracking what has been achieved so far and what is left for the next iteration is essential for measuring the data migration progress and setting tangible goals for the next iteration. Therefore, it deserves a dedicated component in my framework, and I will shed light on measuring and planning test iterations for data migration in this session. Over multiple test iterations, the project team and the vendor realize whether the data migration is working or not as expected, and how long it takes to complete the end-to-end data migration process. That is, from switching off or freezing the legacy system to migrating data, conducting smoke tests, and finally switching on the new system for business transactions. Executing multiple test runs before the cutover is recommended to prepare and ensure robust and frictionless migration on the cutover day. The logic behind test run is to identify gaps in the legacy data to make it fit for the migration by facilitating necessary data mapping, transformation, and cleansing activity before the cutover. For an extensive business system, we can safely assume that it is never ready to be used straight out of the box and requires customization to meet the functional and non functional needs of the business. This customization often occurs while the data migration activities happen in the background. With a time worn legacy system as the source and the target system under customization, the data migration project faces the dilemma of an unknown source and a moving target. In such cases, data migration iterations are crucial to identify gaps in the business readiness to switch to the new system. Leaving the test runs purely as a technical task that is to be handled by database developers and vendor only can lead to unforeseen issues after the cutover due to overlooked dependencies. Addressing and planning what you want to achieve from each test iteration is vital. Therefore, addressing and planning what you want to achieve from each test iteration is vital, and it will bring the business one step closer to the successful data migration on the cutover day with minimized risk. Ignoring data migration test iterations and assuming that legacy data is fit for migration on the cutover day is like trying to catch a flying lizard with your mouth wide open. It is not a good idea, which indeed invites trouble. I want to further express the significance of iteration goals from the change management perspective. Complex change efforts require short-term goals in support of long-term objective, and meeting these short-term goals allows the team to celebrate and maintain momentum. The key thing is to create the short-term win rather than merely hoping for it. In successful transformations, managers actively establish early goals, achieve these goals, and reward the team. Without systematic efforts to guarantee success, change is likely to fail. One of the reputed researchers in the change management, John P. Cotter, articulated 8 reasons why organizations fail to execute change. And in this list, the number 6 is failing to create short-term wins that emphasize on the necessity of early and regular feedback on success. So, how do you set these short-term goals for your data migration project so your team can celebrate these short-term wins and maintain a momentum? First of all, I want to emphasize that you should avoid vague goals like let's migrate some records and test. Be specific and measurable. Measure, communicate, and iterate. That's how you de-risk your data migration project. But the devil is always in the detail, right? It's easy to say things than doing it. Because how exactly you could measure data migration progress when you have hundreds of target attributes across many upload templates? Some of them are done, many of them are waiting for mapping or business rule validation, while the target system is going to introduce new attribute every fortnight. Complex mappings that require business approval can delay your test run indefinitely. In such cases, map everything to a default value in the target system, such as unknown or null or UNK, in order to push data with minimal effort. The idea is to migrate as much data as possible using these temporary placeholders for attributes that need further analysis and business approval. With each iterations, with each iteration, the temporary placeholders for data attribute should decrease as all mapping rules are documented in the business rule component of the plan. Some business rules may take a long time to approve, but it should not delay the migration of data attributes that are ready for migration. I remember how it took me forever to map the location codes of wards and room in the hospital to the new hierarchical location identifiers in the target system. The delay was not technical. Preparing and approving a hierarchical location map of all the wards and rooms across all public hospitals took a while. The conventional way to measure data migration success is by comparing the number of records extracted from the source system to those migrated into the target system. However, more efforts are required to provide a complete picture. For example, we could migrate millions of customers or patient record with only first name and the last name, while all other attributes or keys are defaulted to null or unknown. If you choose a data migration tool such as HOP or engage with a specialist consultant, check their solution and ideas to measure data migration progress. For time being, let me share my tactics. During my first data migration project as a data migration lead, I faced the challenge of measuring and reporting data migration progress to the steering committee, which included senior business stakeholders and executives. At that time, I developed a simple method using our favorite Excel files. We need to understand that we never migrate data directly into the backend of the target system, which may include hundreds or even thousands of tables. Rather, the target system uses an intermediary data upload mechanism such as CSV or Excel data templates, denormalized SQL tables, or even REST APIs. Let's collectively call this mechanism as upload templates, which comes with some documentation from the vendor as well, explaining each attribute in this upload template. You can think of this as a data dictionary for that upload template. So, depending on the complexity of the target system, the vendor may provide 20 to 50 such upload templates that need to be filled with the transformed legacy data ready to be uploaded into the target system. For each field or attribute in that upload template, mark 4 actions with a Boolean flag, that is 1 or 0, to consider that field successfully migrated if all flags are 1. These 4 actions for a single target attribute are: is that field mapped? Is the business rule defined? Is the data quality verified? And eventually, is the data of that field loaded into the target system or not? Not all the target attributes of an upload template will require this 4 action. In such cases, flag the non-required action as 1, that is done. For example, you might not need any data quality rule for a field called customer title. In that case, the data quality flag will be 1. Because there is no data quality checks required, it is marked as done. So, as we see in this table, if the upload template contains 4 fields and 2 are marked as done across all the 4 flags, then the progress for that template is 50%. In reality, the upload template, let's say an appointment, may have 60 fields, for example, 60, and 25 of them are completely done as of today. So 25 by 60 into 100, the completion or the progress for that particular template is 41.67% right now. So this is how you can derive the progress for a particular upload template. It took me a few hours to prepare the first Excel file with 3 tabs for the 3 upload templates, initially making most of the fields as 0 and updating zeros with 1 and sometimes 1 with 0 as well for mapped, business rule, and data quality flag. It took me a few hours to prepare the first Excel files with 3 tabs for 3 upload templates and initially marking most of the field as 0. However, updating zeros with 1 and sometimes 1 with 0 for mapped, business rule, and data quality flags was part of my regular work routine whenever I developed or changed ETL code in any target attribute. After the test run, I would set the loaded flag to 1 for an attribute if the target system accepts all the data for that attribute and no user interface or user experience issues are detected during the testing. I gradually scaled this method to display the completion percentage for all upload templates and then report the current state of data migration to my stakeholders. So this is how it used to look like, my data migration dashboard. The dashboard will display all the upload templates available at the moment, how much work has been done on that template, so what is the current progress percentage, and those 4 flags, I would normalize that to 3, extract, transform, and load. And that way, For individual templates, I was able to report on how much work has been done for the extraction, transformation, and eventually the load part. With the project progression, I also add a flag to denote whether the data is loaded into the UAT environment and a formal testing has been conducted on the UAT environment or not, giving a complete picture to all my stakeholders. After some initial heavy lifting, it was relatively a simple task for me to change those four flags from 1 to 0 or 0 to 1 with the progress in the data migration code development, identification of new issues, and introduction of new target attributes in the target system every fortnight. With this approach, I kept an up-to-date data migration status report for the business stakeholders, and I would provide this report after every iteration each fortnight. With clear visibility of showstoppers, especially those flags which are zero from a long time, stakeholders could push the right levers to remove or find a solution around any showstoppers in the data migration activities. During my first data migration project, customizations in the target system introduced new upload templates and altered the existing one every fortnight for almost 2 years, which caused variations in the data migration completion percentage every fortnight. However, as the code freeze came closer and the frequency of change got smaller, the above method of reporting data migration progress helped me to pinpoint individual target attributes with pending activities. That is, it is mapped or not, business rules is validated or not, data quality is defined or not, and eventually that attribute, the data in that attribute is loaded in the target system or not. So after a few test runs, I could share the progress visually, locate those flags with zero, and specify which action was missing to highlight the target attribute with prolonged delays from the stakeholders in the business rule approvals. And eventually, with every iterations, all my placeholders such as unknown or null were reduced. My business rules were validated, where I made some assumptions. Every assumption was validated. There was no mapping gap. Eventually, the overall data quality improved, and any integration related issues that surfaced was addressed properly and resolved by the stakeholders. So this is how you can measure, communicate, and iterate multiple data migration test runs. So following the ritual of this course, here comes the questions that you need to find answer for your own data migration project. Have a look. Great. We are beyond the half mark with all the nuances of foundation and iteration stage covered. We will now jump into the last and the final stage, the migration stage. Thank you so much. Please continue on the next video, which is the beginning of the module 4.